When the oil pressure in the engine is low, the internal parts will not get enough lubrication. This will increase friction and cause the engine to overheat. Engine oil is the main element that keeps it running smoothly. However, if the oil pressure is insufficient, the engine may be exposed to major problems. Usually, low oil level is the main cause of this problem. However, there are other reasons that may cause this as well. For example, delaying oil changes at the recommended times may cause low oil pressure. In today's episode, we will talk about the main causes of this problem. We will answer some important questions about low oil pressure in the engine. What does low oil pressure mean? Normal oil pressure can vary between cars. Some cars are equipped with a gauge that measures oil pressure. When the pressure is adequate, the gauge pointer is approximately centered and the warning light or oil lamp is not illuminated. To properly lubricate, cool, and clean the engine, the oil needs adequate flow and pressure. This is because the oil pump forces oil through narrow passages, increasing pressure. For example, when the engine is idling, oil pressure typically ranges between 4.4 and 17.07 psi. It can reach as high as 28 psi when the engine RPM gauge reaches 2000 RPM. However, excessive pressure can damage the engine. That's why the relief valve, located near the oil pump, opens when the pressure reaches a certain value to allow excess oil to flow back into the oil pan. Ultimately, oil pressure is considered low if the gauge readings are lower than the recommendations in the engine maintenance manual. Why does engine oil pressure drop? Engine oil relies on pressure to ensure proper lubrication of all its components. That's why it's important to constantly monitor the pressure level and pay attention when the oil light comes on. This is the most common cause of low engine oil pressure. 1. Low engine oil. Low engine oil is one of the most common causes of low oil pressure. This can occur as a result of a delayed oil change, leaks, or other reasons. When the oil level is insufficient, the oil pump will be unable to provide the pressure required to ensure proper engine lubrication. 2. Too high or too low oil viscosity. Oil viscosity affects the amount of oil pumped by the oil pump. If the oil is too thin or low viscosity, it will move easily and will not provide sufficient pressure, resulting in a low pressure reading from the oil sensor. If the oil is too thick or high viscosity, it will be difficult to move within the engine, which can reduce lubrication and also cause a drop in oil pressure. 3. Engine wear. Engine wear doesn't directly affect oil pressure, but it can sometimes cause it to drop. For example, if the piston rings are damaged or weak, oil can leak into the combustion chamber, causing a shortage of engine oil. In this case, you'll need to add oil more frequently instead of changing it every 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers. 4. Faulty oil pressure sensor. If the oil level is normal and the engine is operating properly without strange noises or high temperatures, the oil pressure sensor may be faulty and giving incorrect readings. In this case, you'll need to replace it and test the oil pressure to ensure the correct measurements. 5. Oil sludge and sediment in the oil filter. The buildup of dirt in the oil filter, through which the oil passes to the oil pump, is another cause of low oil pressure. If the dirt prevents the oil from flowing through the filter, pressure will drop and the oil light may appear on the dashboard. 6. Weak oil pump. In some cases, a damaged oil pump doesn't provide the required pressure. Therefore, it may need to be replaced to restore normal oil pressure. 7. Clogged oil filter. In most cars, the pressure sensor is located after the oil filter and the pressure relief valve. Therefore, if the oil filter is clogged or dirty, pressure may drop. Okay, so how do you check if the oil pressure is low? You can use an oil pressure tester to check your car's lubrication system. Follow these steps. First, locate the oil pressure sensor, which is usually located next to the oil filter. Then, disconnect its electrical plug and remove it using a wrench. Then, connect the test device to the sensor, start the engine, and let it idle for 15 to 20 minutes until it reaches operating temperature to take the oil pressure reading. Then, increase the engine speed to about 1000 RPM and confirm the reading. Then, increase it to about 2000 RPM and continue measuring the pressure. Then, compare the readings with the specifications in the vehicle's maintenance manual. If the readings are lower than the specifications, then you should know the reason. However, if the readings are within the specifications and the engine is running without strange noises or an abnormal increase in temperature, then the problem may be with the oil pressure sensor itself. Now we will talk about the most common questions about low oil pressure in the engine. Why is oil pressure important? Engine oil is essential to keep engine components properly lubricated. The oil pump pushes it through the passages and clearances inside the engine, helping to create the necessary oil pressure. Without this proper pressure, the oil won't perform its function properly, which can cause engine performance problems. What is the normal oil pressure range? In most Hyundai vehicles at 1000 RPM, the normal oil pressure is between approximately 0.98 and 1.18 bar. In Toyota vehicles at idle, the normal pressure is approximately between 0.30 and 0.65 bar. At the end of our episode, we talked about and explained the most important problems and causes of low oil pressure in the engine, so that you are aware of them and determine if you need to fix them. Thank you for following, and we will meet in a new episode.